So let's get this bad boy poppin'. In today's video, I want to share with you guys an updated Nintendo Switch collection because usually each and every year or each and every season, I do like doing an update to my Nintendo Switch collection just because I do get new games just like anybody else. And then on top of that, I also want to share it with you because you may learn a thing or two about my taste in video games, and then besides that you may learn about video games you never learned about before, and you may be interested in something and you may pick it up based on my recommendation. That's also why I like doing these videos. Now, some of you guys out there may be wondering why I don't share things like my PS4 collection or my Steam library. That's just due to the fact that I am a very big Nintendo fan, and to be honest, I spend most of my money on video games on the Nintendo Switch compared to other platforms. That's why I don't really share my PS4 collection or my Steam collection to you guys, because there's not much to really look at and it would be kind of pointless to you guys. That's why I share my Nintendo Switch collection again with you guys. Really quick disclaimer before I start this collection video. I just wanted to say that everything that you're seeing on screen here is everything that I own. I'm actually an all digital person when it comes to the Switch. I mean, that's just the way I feel like I like buying my games, so I buy them digitally 99% of the time. So it's not like you're going to be missing any games here or there when it comes to my collection. Again, everything is going to be stored on my Nintendo Switch. So without further ado, let's actually talk about my Nintendo Switch game collection. First off, I have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and of course, with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you already know what that game is. It's literally one of the biggest Nintendo franchises or properties that they own, and it's a fantastic game. If you haven't played it by now, what are you waiting for? It's an amazing game. Next up, we have Minecraft, and Minecraft is the same as Smash Brothers. Everybody knows what Minecraft is if you are a gamer. Of course, this game is not for everybody, but it is a very fun game either way, and it's worth the money if you like Minecraft, of course. And then, of course, next up, we have the YouTube application for the Switch, and honestly, I don't really use it all that often. I don't know why I still have this installed. Maybe once in a while I'll look up like a game guide or look up a game information on a game that I'm currently playing just to get some information, because it's pretty accessible and pretty easy to use. But besides that, I don't spend most of my time on YouTube, at least on the Switch. Now, the next one is going to be Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition, and I didn't really talk about this at all when I picked this up this year, and this game is an amazing game. Fun fact, it's actually my favorite game of all time, practically, or at least it's in my top 3 favorite games of all time ever. I love the concept of Borderlands. I just think it's really dope how there's an FPS RPG, a first-person shooter RPG. This genre really doesn't have too many games, and this is the best example. If you want a shooting game that's a heavy RPG with loot and shoot mechanics, it's amazing. You can spend hundreds of hours in here. There's a lot of content, and if you were wondering about the Borderlands 2 game specifically on the Switch and how does it perform, I can confidently tell you this game runs absolutely amazing. Sure, it won't be anything compared to like the Xbox, PlayStation, or even PC versions of these games, but you do have to remember this was a last-gen game. I'm talking 360 and PS3, and since it was a last-generation game, this game aged really well on the Switch. You do get some performance issues once in a while, but they're not noticeable at all. I can tell you firsthand, I already have like 40 or 50 hours in Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition, and it's kind of sad that I actually bought this game again just because I played it literally over like 1,000 times on so many different consoles and hardwares. Like, why even buy it again? But I just like the fact that it came to the Switch, and I really wanted to support Gearbox and 2K for porting it to the Switch because it is amazing. And you also have to realize this game was never a game to push graphics to the maximum. It was always a shell-shaded cartoony type of game, so the graphics don't matter with this game, and you won't even notice that they aren't as good as something like a PlayStation, an Xbox, or a Steam game. Honestly, again, I can recommend this wholeheartedly. If you haven't played it, if you're thinking about the Switch version, definitely get it. Next up, we have Overwatch. Of course, a lot of people know what Overwatch is. It is a hero-based online shooter, and it is an amazing game, but I wouldn't recommend the Switch version unless you just want something to mess around with, just because the frame rate is not good, especially when you use a lot of these abilities for the character. It can get really hectic very fast. And this game, I do know for a factor, only runs at 30 frames per second on the Switch, which is pretty much unacceptable for a game that's a very fast-paced game and you really need as much frame rate as possible. I can safely say this game is a game you don't want to buy on Switch unless you get it cheap or you already have another alternative way to play this game and you just want a game just to have fun with. Then the Switch one is alright. It's not like it's complete junk or unplayable. It's just that you can definitely notice the frame rate on here being 30 frames per second, and it's not a locked 30 frames per second. It is a mixed bag when it comes to the frame rate. Again, especially when you use the abilities for each character, and depending on what type of ability they use, it can get super hectic. Like for instance, I am a Roadhog main, and since I am a Roadhog main, excuse me, I'm kind of pronouncing his name wrong. Once you use his ability, like his super or ultra ability, it just gets way too choppy really fast, and it's almost like unusable to actually aim his gun all around the screen with his ability, but it is what it is. Now, the next one, really quickly, is going to be Rocket League. Of course, Rocket League is a very popular esporty type game. I just want to mention this really quickly. Now that this game has been out for quite some time, they actually decided to make this game free to play, so you can actually download this on practically any platform you want and get this game for free now, which is actually nice. So you have nothing to lose if you never tried Rocket League, and honestly I would recommend Rocket League, especially since it is a free to play game now on every platform out there. Next up is Mario 35. That's a new game exclusive to the Nintendo Switch Online membership. And yeah, I kind of already went over this in a previous episode. I think the one where I talked about Minecraft coming to Smash, I think it is the previous episode actually before this. So go check that out if you want to see my thoughts on this game. If you have the online service, of course, this game is definitely worth checking out. If you don't have the online service, don't go out of your way to obviously buy the online service for Super Mario 35. But still a pretty fun game. Next up is Animal Crossing New Horizons, and this game is definitely one of the biggest game changers, not only for the Switch, but also for the Animal Crossing franchise. It did a lot for the franchise, and this game is an amazing game. I can admit this game's not for everybody. This game definitely speaks to me. I think I put around 115 hours in this game, and then I just got bored and never really touched it. But this game is amazing, and if you never heard of Animal Crossing, it's pretty much a decoration simulator. I know a lot of people like saying it's a life simulator, which that is technically true, but for me, I kind of think of it as like a decorating simulator where you're just going around an island decorating it, whether it's the island or whether it's something like your house. I just think that's the best way to summarize this game. It's kind of like The Sims or kind of like Stardew Valley. It's in the same realm as those games, and I think this game has a lot to offer when it comes to customization or just hanging out or things like this, and this is one of the best Nintendo Switch games without a doubt. Next up is Dead Cells. Of course, you may have heard of Dead Cells based on the IGN plagiarism scandal that came out a couple of years ago with that one guy. But anyway, Dead Cells is an amazing game. It's a roguelike, Metroidvania type of action platformer game. That's the best way to summarize this game up. And Dead Cells is an amazing game, and if you haven't played it, I highly recommend playing it. I can confidently say this is one of the best looking roguelikes, if not one of the best looking indie games. The art style of this game is just amazing. One thing that's super amazing about this game is the fact that with Dead Cells specifically, Dead Cells has some of the best combat you'll ever find in a video game. It's fast, it's fluid, it's satisfying. You won't be disappointed when you play this game. The only downside to this game is it is a very hard game, and I know some people play this game and then end up losing interest because they can't beat the game and things like that. But if you want something that's going to be very good for your money, definitely pick up Dead Cells. I think it goes for about $25. Definitely a good pickup. Next up is Stardew Valley, which is pretty much a farming simulator. It's more close to things like Harvest Moon and things like that. If you ever played Harvest Moon, then you'll pretty much feel right at home with Stardew Valley. And just like Dead Cells, Stardew Valley does give you a lot for your money when it comes to replayability, when it comes to logging in hours. You can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours in Stardew Valley. So if you like living a life, if you like farming and having like a farm, obviously, then you're gonna like Stardew Valley. The next one on my list is Steriden, I think it's called, and Steriden is pretty much a shoot 'em up game. If you ever played things like Galaga, Radeon, I think it's called, and things like that, then you'll be very familiar with Steriden or Stardin. And this game is not your traditional shoot 'em up game. It pretty much functions like a roguelike shoot 'em up game. Very interesting game. It's pretty fun if you like roguelikes, but more specifically if you like beat 'em ups. I think this does bring something new to the table. I didn't put too much into this game because it is a very difficult game, but it is a very fun game. And fun fact, this game is one of those indie games that actually has a physical release for it, so that's nice. Next up is Borderlands Game of the Year. I actually picked up all the Borderlands games on Switch, so Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel. I can't really tell you too much about Borderlands 1. I did put in about 20 hours into this game, and just like all the rest of the Borderlands games, it pretty much plays flawlessly on the Nintendo Switch. It is much more older, of course, but it's still a very fun time if you like Borderlands. Not as good as Borderlands 2 in my opinion, at least when it comes to gun variety, at least when it comes to different locations you explore and things like that, but overall still a very fun game to actually explore. And then the next one outside of that is going to be Splatoon 2, another very popular Nintendo IP. And this one is a multiplayer third-person shooter, but it's not your typical third-person shooter like Gears of War or anything like that. It's very unique because you are pretty much using like these paint guns and you are spraying paint around an arena, and it's a very cool concept for a game. If you're looking for a multiplayer game on Switch, then Splatoon is definitely going to be that game. Next up, we have the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. If you didn't know anything about me, the games that I actually grew up with as a kid were actually the Crash Bandicoot games, and this is pretty nice on the Nintendo Switch. It plays pretty good. If you like 2D or 3D platformers, then you're definitely going to love Crash Bandicoot, because I certainly love Crash Bandicoot. And of course, at this very moment, they do have the new Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, that's already out, which is also a very cool game. Next up, we have Lumines Remastered. It's pretty much a puzzle game, kind of like Tetris, but it doesn't play like Tetris. It plays differently, but the coolest thing about Luminous is the fact that Luminous actually plays with music, so you're actually doing like a rhythm-based puzzle game, if that makes sense. It's a very cool concept, and all the music is going to be exclusive to Luminous, and I'm a big fan of this game, and this is the first one in the series for that game. And then next up, we have Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist. And I know some people aren't a fan of card games or Yu-Gi-Oh! They think it's like childish or kiddie or unappealing. But I am a big Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, and I actually decided to pick this up on the Nintendo Switch. And Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution, I would personally say, is definitely one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. I know not a lot of people feel that way, but the reason it's one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games is because there is really no BS to bog down the game. It's pretty much you just playing against CPUs in duels and things like that. You don't have like a HUD, you don't have like a world map, you don't really have a story here. You do have a story, but it's very minimal. You're just going in and out of duels all day, all long. And the thing is, with Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution, if you want a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that's going to have almost all the cards known to exist, this game is going to be it. You can't get any other Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, at least an official Yu-Gi-Oh! Game for like PC or consoles, that has all the cards. This one has all the cards up from March 2020. It is missing some new packs that came out this year, but I mean, it's still the most updated Yu-Gi-Oh! Game if you just want the most fun Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. And fun fact, if you play CPUs in this game, you can actually use cards that are on the ban list. They do not care. So if you just wanted to mess around and make some broken-ass decks, you can make some broken-ass decks in Duel Link Evolution. It's kind of expensive, and I know this game's not for everybody, but the amount of value you can get out of this game can be potentially hundreds of hours if you're just like sitting behind your Switch and playing duels all day long. Next up is Paladins, which is pretty much a clone of Overwatch. It is a good game, and it is a free-to-play game, so maybe you should check out Paladins if you don't want to pay for Overwatch or you just need something to play on your Switch. Vigor just came out on the Switch. It's kind of like a battle royale game. I think it's made from the same developers as Days or DayZ, which I'm not really too familiar with. And honestly, I haven't played this game either. I booted it up for a little while. But the thing is, though, I really didn't like it for some reason, so I didn't end up really playing it. I may need to revisit this game, but yes, Vigor is officially on the Nintendo Switch. Next up is Fortnite. Everybody knows Fortnite, of course. Not going to get into that. I will say, though, the Fortnite on Switch is absolutely horrendous, at least for me. I know some people play this on Switch, but I can't tolerate it at all. Not the gameplay, but more specifically the performance of this game on Switch. If you never played it on Switch, it's just, for me, almost intolerable. It plays at like 720p. It also plays at like 20 to 25 frames per second. It's very choppy. It's just not that great. There's definitely better ways to play this, and if you're desperate and you want to play Fortnite, then obviously you're going to play it on Switch. But the Switch is definitely one of the worst platforms to play Fortnite, which is just kind of a shame. Next up, we have Super Nintendo Online Entertainment games. Those are just for the online subscribers. They get free Super Nintendo games. Next up, we have Enter the Gungeon, and Enter the Gungeon is definitely one of my favorite games of all time as well. It's a roguelike twin-stick shooter, and it's definitely an amazing game, just like Dead Cells, and it'll give you hundreds, if not thousands of hours of gameplay with this game. The only thing about this game, just like Dead Cells, is the fact that this game is an extremely hard game, just like most roguelikes, so if you don't like hard games, you may want to stay clear of this game, but this game has so much charm, it's so fun, you can learn different things. It's just an amazing game. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think this is one of my most played Nintendo Switch games, if not the most played game on my system, actually. I think I put around 500 hours into this game, which is absolutely insane. I just love, love, love this game, and I am a master at this game at the very moment. Next up, World Soccer Pinball. I think I got that with gold points for $1, and it's mediocre. And the thing that sucks about this game is the fact that this game doesn't even support the official Pro controller. You have to use the Joy-Cons, which is kind of silly. But again, this game's only like $1, so whatever. Of course, we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Nothing to say about that. And then Rogue Company, which is a free-to-play third-person shooter. It kind of plays like Gears of War and also has some elements of not Call of Duty, Counter-Strike. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. You have nothing to lose. What I played was pretty fun, and it is a fun experience if you just want to mess around and dick around with Rogue Company. Next up, we have the pre-sequel, just like Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 1. Not my favorite game, but again, just like all the other Borderlands games, it plays amazing on Switch. Next up, we have Immortal Redneck, which is also another roguelike. It's a roguelike first-person shooter, and there's not many roguelikes that are first-person shooters, and I wanted to give this game a try. Honestly, I would say this game's fun to play, but I wouldn't recommend it at its actual retail price. I would personally say this game's a better buy when this goes on sale. If you see this game on sale, then maybe check it out, but this game definitely feels like an indie game for sure. It's not that polished, and there are things about it I don't like, but you can still have a fun time with this game, but it's definitely not a really high recommendation from me personally. Now, the next one on my list is going to be about Breath of the Wild, an amazing game. It's also one of my most played games on Switch, without a doubt. If you haven't played it, it is an amazing game. It is an open world game which has Zelda in it. What else can I say? Everyone's probably already played it at this point, or at least heard of it. Next up, we have World of Tanks Blitz, which is actually the mobile version of World of Tanks, so it's not the same free-to-play one you would get on PC or other consoles, because I guess, of course, Switch doesn't have enough power to play World of Tanks regular, so it got Blitz. I have played about 20 minutes of this game, and what I played was okay, but this game's really not for me. Next up, we have Crash Bandicoot Nitro Fueled Racing. And Crash Bandicoot Nitro Fueled Racing is also an amazing game. If you haven't played Crash Team Racing, then I highly recommend checking this game out. Just be careful. This game plays nothing like Mario Kart, and this game is a much more harder version of Mario Kart, so keep that in mind if you're thinking about getting this game, especially the online to this game. There is still a big community, and I do play this from time to time, but let me tell you, if you're not skilled and you don't know the mechanics of this game, don't buy this just to play the multiplayer aspect of this game. You'll be very disappointed because you're not going to win any matches. It's just a totally different beast than Mario Kart. And honestly, if you're a casual fan and you don't want to learn mechanics, go ahead and play Mario Kart. You're better off playing that, just to be honest. I think this game is only for certain people, at least when it comes to the online, and I think a lot of people will agree with me on that. Next up is 2K19. I got that on the crazy ass sale a couple years ago for like $3. What can you expect? Next up is NBA Playgrounds. They don't make this game anymore, but they have NBA Playgrounds 2, which is a replacement to this game. It's pretty much an arcadey basketball game in the likes of NBA, not NBA Showdown, NBA, the one from the 80s and 70s. I know it's very popular, but I don't remember the name of the game. Game is trying to replicate. It would be easy. NBA Street, NBA Heat, NBA something. I know it is NBA something, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. It was from Midway, but either way, still a very good game. Obviously, get the second one. Super Mario Maker 2. Unfortunately, to be honest with you guys, I don't own this game anymore. I need to remove it off my Switch. It says that I still own it physical, but I don't own it at all anymore. This game wasn't for me, honestly, for a number of reasons, which I won't get into in this video, but I do want to state that this is still a very fun game, and I get the appeal of playing random levels all day long and having endless fun with Super Mario Maker 2, an amazing game for the Switch. It just didn't click for me, honestly, for a lot of reasons, and it's kind of funny. I am a big platforming fan when it comes to video games, but for some reason this game just really didn't speak to me. Next up, we have Diablo 3. If you haven't played Diablo, I would definitely recommend getting this on Switch. It plays phenomenally, and there's nothing wrong with this game. If you love a loot type game, if you love dungeon exploring, then you're definitely going to love Diablo 3. And this comes, I think, with all the DLCs as well. Just a very overall very good package for Switch. Next up, we have Overcooked 2. If you haven't played Overcooked, I would highly recommend it. It is one of my favorite multiplayer games, but I really suggest that you have people with you playing this game, because this game is pretty much a game that lives off of the co-op aspect of this game. And if you don't have any friends or any family to play this with, then don't waste your time with this game. This game does have an online function, and you can play with CPUs if you don't have people to play with, but the experience is not the same. This game, again, is highly driven off the fact that you do need people to play with, unfortunately, but an amazing game at that. It really puts your brain to the test. Next up is Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is an amazing strategy RPG. If you never played Fire Emblem and you want to play a strategy RPG, you can get no better than Fire Emblem. And Fire Emblem has a lot of customization, a lot of story. Overall, it is an amazing game. If you like it, good. If you don't like it, good. I personally obviously like this series, so I bought Three Houses, and I can say it's not a game you're going to be disappointed with. And when it comes to content as well, this game has a lot of content, and it's well worth your $60, 100%. Next up is Horizon Chase Turbo, which is based off of things like Outrun from the 80s and 90s. But for me, this game really didn't click for me. I thought it was a little bit too basic and a little bit too boring. I didn't even put like 5 minutes into this game, which is kind of weird because I do like Outrun, which is also a very basic game at its core level, but I think there's just something about the fact that the music was very repetitive, and for me, I'm not a fan of the music. I know so many people are going to bash me on this because everywhere you look on the internet, so many people recommend this for a racing game or for an arcadey racing game, but for me, it just did not click, and I kind of wish there was also an online component where you can race people live online. I do know they have like leaderboards, I do believe, but for me, it still doesn't do anything. Next up is Strikers 1945, which is an old classic shoot-'em-up game. What can I say about this game? If you love shoot-'em-ups, then you'll love this game. Next up is ARMS, which is a first-party title from Nintendo, and honestly, with this game, I just didn't like this game at all. It just really wasn't my cup of tea. It was kind of repetitive and kind of boring, and I personally wouldn't recommend it. You can have some fun with this game, but at this very moment, you're pretty much going to be stuck playing CPUs or story mode because not many people still boot this game up and play this game, to be honest. But for me, again, the whole concept of just having like a Wii Sports Boxing Deluxe really didn't do much because the concept is so generic and so simple and so repetitive. It didn't click with me. Next up is Tetris 99, which is another Nintendo Switch online membership exclusive, and it is like Super Mario 35th Anniversary. If you like Tetris, you're going to like this game. There really is no difference between this and regular Tetris, outside of the fact that you are playing against 99 other people. Still a cool concept. Next up is Ollie Ollie Switch Stance on Switch, which gives you Ollie Ollie 1 and Ollie Ollie 2. If you haven't played these games, I highly suggest playing this game. It's pretty much where you control a little skateboarder on a skateboard, of course, and you're trying to do tricks. It may look like a generic game when you first see this game, but let me tell you, when you actually play this game and play the controls of this game, it's a game that's not generic and not boring. It really does feel awesome and satisfying to pull off tricks and things like that. I will say this game does take a little bit of time to actually get used to the controls and get used to playing it because it is a very hard game and you do have to use a lot of different buttons at the same time, and sometimes your like head or like your motions of your hands don't really work right, and it takes you a long time to figure things out. But again, once you figure them out, it is very satisfying. Next up is Mega Man 11, and honestly, as much as this game is pretty fun, it's definitely not my favorite Mega Man game. I didn't really like the direction of Mega Man. This game is still a really good game, especially if you get this game on a sale. I would definitely say get this, but this is an okay game. It's definitely better than like Mega Man 8 or some of the other weird Mega Man games. Definitely still one of the best Mega Man games. Definitely not the best, but it is still a good Mega Man game. And don't let people tell you it's kind of crappy, because it's okay, but it's not my favorite, but it's still a fun time. Next up is Graceful Explosion Machine, which is a shoot 'em up game, and this game I would stay far away from unless you just like score attacks and things like that, because this game is very repetitive and very boring, and there is no boss battles in this game, and the level structure is just very, very, very repetitive, and you have been warned with Graceful Explosion Machine. This was actually one of the first few brand new Nintendo Switch indie games when the Switch first came out back in 2017, and it looked like it was going to be a game for me because the aesthetic of this game is amazing. But other than the aesthetic being amazing for this game falls flat in the actual gameplay, in my opinion, because it's so repetitive after a while, and the structure just doesn't make sense. And then next up we have Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn. I think I got that free with the NBA Playgrounds game because I think they're made by the same company or what have you. And this game was a game that's kind of mediocre, and I don't honestly recommend it to anybody, but you can still have fun with this game, just not really a purchase I would personally buy. And then we have Rive Ultimate Edition, and Rive Ultimate Edition is another shoot 'em up game, but it's not your traditional shoot 'em up game. It pretty much works like a platforming shoot 'em up game, and this game is a game that I recommend for people who love shoot 'em ups. If you don't love shoot 'em ups, then maybe buy this game, but if you definitely love the shoot 'em up genre, I can definitely say this is a very unique game for what it is, and you definitely have a blast. And the main character of this game is kind of funny and kind of hilarious on this game, so definitely check this game out. And then Xenoraid is kind of like that other game I mentioned, whatever it's called. It is a roguelike shoot 'em up game as well. If I was to pick between that one and this one, I wouldn't really know which one to pick when it comes to shoot 'em ups, when it comes to roguelike ones, because that one and Staroden, I think it's called, or whatever, are so different in the gameplay. I would recommend both, but yeah, it's still a very fun game. And then we have Valkyrie Chronicles 4 demo, and the only reason I have this demo still sitting on my Switch is due to the fact that, believe it or not, apparently from what I remember, this demo got removed from the Nintendo Switch's eShop, so you can no longer buy this or get this demo anymore. I just want to say I have a demo that nobody else could actually access, so that's why I have it. And yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. It's been about 30 minutes since I've been talking, and yeah, I just wanted to go over everything here. And once again, I will scan through all these games so you can look at the whole collection really quickly. And pause the video if you want to pause it and see the games, and maybe download something that you that I talked about here in this video, because I do have quite a lot of games on my Switch, and I'm assuming in the upcoming years, obviously, I'm gonna have more games on my Switch. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.